Hi, I'm here today with Devin, the owner and chief chocolate maker at Laughing Fox Chocolatier, and we're going to be discussing one of my favorite topics, or rather foods, and that's paleo chocolates. So it's going to be a short chat, but I want you to stick around to find out what the key to making excellent chocolate truffles is, and what the most common mistake people make when making chocolate truffles at home. So let me introduce Devin right now. Why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and about your chocolate making?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Devin Plaut. I am a 25-year-old living in Washington, D.C. and actually headed out to California within the next few months to fully start a chocolate-based company that serves people with good quality chocolate at an affordable price.
Fantastic. Sounds really delicious, actually. So how long have you been interested in chocolate?
So I would say I've been interested in making chocolate for about 4 years, but I've been interested in chocolate ever since I first found out about Willy Wonka. I just thought the entire story was kind of fascinating, how he was brought up and he just loved it so much, and he loved making people feel good, so that's what he did. And I really admire that story for that reason, and I resonate with it.
That's fantastic. I love Roald Dahl's books. Growing up in England, it was very popular, obviously. So I definitely remember the stories well. And also, I actually lived in Birmingham, which is right next to the Cadbury's chocolate factory.
Oh, wow.
So,
that must have been really dangerous.
That was really fun as a kid. I think we had a lot of school excursions, though, actually. But sadly, they've stopped making chocolate, and I can't eat Cadbury's chocolate anymore anyway, so...
Yeah, you kind of grow out of that taste after a little while.
Yeah, that was a pity. So when did you actually start making paleo chocolate, which is something I can eat?
So it was actually due to request of a company in the area called Power Supply. Mm-hmm. They actually make meals for the athletic-minded or people on the go, and I approached them. I told them I make chocolate, and they're like, okay. Does it have sugar in it? I'm like, well, of course there's sugar in it. Most chocolate does, unless it's 100%. And they're like, well, we can't sell your stuff unless it's sugar-free. And I'm like, all right, well, give me 2 weeks. So I went into my kitchen laboratory, we'll call it, and started putting things together, mixing 100% chocolate with cocoa butter, and then taking sugars derived from fruit, and then mixing it in as well, trying to make sure that the viscosity was the right levels, that it could still be tempered with that liquid in it that came from the sugars. Mm-hmm. And after about 2 weeks, we had this product that, well, I'd sent to you and your parents, and that's what came up with. And people seem to really like it, and I was like, far be it from me to say otherwise. If they like the product, I will continue making it.
Fantastic.
So it was upon request.
That's fantastic. And what ingredients exactly do you actually put in it?
There's actually only 3. Mm-hmm. That's the way I like it. It's very simple. I don't use preservatives. I think it's kind of lying, and it cheats the product a little bit, mm-hmm. because the refined palate can taste those preservatives. Yes. We actually only use 100% dark chocolate, which we get from Callebaut, which is a Belgian chocolate company. Mm-hmm. We get our cocoa butter from the same source, and then we use fruit sugars. So we'll use a combination of date sugar, coconut sugar, and palm sugar, and coconut palm sugar. And those 3 combinations actually add up very well to mimic what normal sugar tastes like.
Nice. Because I think I've only tried making truffles with, I think I used honey in mine. Okay. And I think that definitely changes the taste a lot.
Yeah, well, considering honey varies from taste to taste from where you get it from. And if you get it from Hawaiian Islands, it has a white texture and a more paste feel to it, mm-hmm. and that will be sweeter without the floral, earthy taste to it. Versus you get the stuff in the jar, which I don't do because it's just, yeah. Yeah, I did use honey for the first batch I tried to make, and the aftertaste, I just didn't like it too much. So I was like, I need to scratch that, we'll try something more.
Fantastic. Well, it tasted amazing, as my parents will attest to. I sadly didn't get to try it that time, but I will be trying it soon.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, definitely. And so I actually made truffles before at home. I think it was for Valentine's one year I decided to try it. And I thought it was actually not as complicated as I would have anticipated. But I'm sure my truffles did not taste nearly as good as yours. So why don't you tell us, what is the key to making these excellent chocolates?
So there's two keys I've found through trial and error. One is the tempering process, which is what's used to make the shell.
Why don't you explain what the tempering process is, because I don't even understand it fully.
So tempering, it's kind of like how you would temper steel. You raise and lower the temperature to make the outside harder. It also, so you would, each type of chocolate has a different temperature you have to reach. Dark chocolate being 108 degrees and no less than 89. White chocolate being 104 and also no less than 89. And so on and so forth, depending on each, brand of chocolate you get, because it's feeding off of crystals that are in the chocolate that make that crystallization, that give it that shine that people love so much. That's the first process. You can do that in many ways. The easiest method is called the seeding method, and you can look that up online. It's very simple to do at home with a microwave. That would be the way I suggest home people who want to do this at their home to do. And that's the way I tell people to do it when I'm giving demonstrations if they want to try this at home.
So do you just melt? Is that just melting the chocolate?
It'd be melting it in a certain sequence, because it can't, if it gets above 108 and you add chocolate in, the seeds feed them, they will melt too hot and those crystals won't seed, they won't take hold, and they won't create more crystals.
So you won't get that glossy look.
Right, it'll be more dull and it won't have that snap to it, and you'll be able to bend it, which, if you've ever had a Hershey's bar, it does that anyway. So it's not difficult to do, but it's very hard to master, especially by hand. That's most professional chocolatiers actually use tempering machines because it is a very lengthy process.
So would you recommend getting like a temperature probe, perhaps? Would that help to make sure you don't go too? Like one of those, like a candy. I know they have like the thermometers for like candy and stuff.
You can. I actually would suggest that, especially when starting out. I personally no longer use one because it's like second nature now just to do it.
Yeah.
So, but starting out, it's very wise to use a candy thermometer because then you get the whole temperature of the chocolate, not just the surface.
So you'd say the key was really to make sure you get that crisp outer shell on a truffle.
Yes. Plus,
so
that's like
you get that crisp taste. Yeah.
And then the second most important aspect, I believe, is your ingredients. If you don't have good ingredients, you're not going to have good chocolate. You can't make a good truffle with Hershey's chocolate chips. You have to find something just a little more palatable.
Nice. And what's your favorite center for the truffles then?
I'll do a butter ganache. And I'm not going to tell you how I make it. I'm not going to tell you the ingredients. That's my secret. And just no. But it's largely
composed. We can just enjoy it.
Yeah, and that is my favorite to make, and it's also people's favorite. Whenever I do love making chocolate, but the part about this job that I love the most is the face people make when they first try it. Their eyebrows knit together, and they're like, "What did I just put in my mouth?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I was looking for." So.
Nice. And then I guess my last question is, what is the most common mistake? Is that still the tempering process that people mess up, or is there something else that you find people kind of do wrong?
The most common mistake I find people that people make is they try and rush the process. In fact, if you want me to, I can email you a home way to do this, step-by-step process, and make sure people follow these instructions to the T. Because if you don't wait, you'll get a subpar product, and you won't notice it at first until you try something that's been done correctly. Let's say you wanted a dark chocolate orange ganache, and you added in liquid when the chocolate was still melted and was still in its unsolidified form. That those water molecules would attach to the fat molecules of the chocolate, and it would become grainy. And you'd be able to taste that immediately, and that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make. Is they try and rush this process that is very scientific, but and people don't really think about it like that. Think about it as cooking, when cooking itself is a science.
I think I've actually made that mistake when making truffles. It's actually, I think the problem is you don't even know what good truffles is or how it should be. So when you're making it at home, you don't even realize you're making those mistakes.
It wasn't until I started giving my stuff away at first and had people like giving feedback that I really started knowing what my mistakes were. So I would constantly ask, what could be better about this?
Yeah.
And they would tell me, like, it's a little bit grainy, and I'm like, okay, I got this. Give me a little time. I'll figure it out.
That's fantastic. I love your scientific approach to this, because yeah, I definitely think that pretty much all of cooking is just science, and
yeah,
a lot of baking, in fact, is like hugely scientific.
Yeah, my first run-in with croissants was terrible. It was probably the worst thing ever. They were salty and they were hard, and not croissant-like at all. But that's another story for another time.
Well, paleo baking is definitely very tough. Like very different ingredients,
I bet.
And then there's like nobody giving you, guidelines as to how you should do things because nobody's written very much about it. So, but it makes it exciting because you get to test out a lot of things.
Yeah, you gotta have fun in your kitchen. Otherwise, what are you doing it for?
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Yeah, of course.
And sharing your knowledge with
My
everyone
pleasure.
about chocolate.
Yeah.
So one last question. If anyone wants to buy your paleo chocolates, which I definitely do, and I think everyone else would too, where can they find them?
They can go to my website, which is www.lfchocolate.com, like as in Laughing Fox. And yeah, they can just send me an email, and I will ship like countrywide. And it's usually 2-day shipping. One thing I request is that they just send me an email with where they got it from, who they heard it about, and yeah, that's about it.
Fantastic. I'll put the link below the video as well, so you will have access to that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.